Because Dean.O, as I stated before in the intro, we're not out of the woods yet when it comes to boxing. Like, yes, we'll get some good fights here and there, some mega fights. Potentially, we're still waiting on Spence and Crawford, but we also going to have mega fights that's going to fall through. And Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk was the latest mega fight to fall through. So the question here is as follows: who's most to blame for Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk collapse? And Dean.O, once again, you can start us off.
Man, I mean, this is a tough one. I mean, because a lot of it really is he said, she said. We're not in there. We don't know the negotiations. That's why I advocate for let's hear some of these negotiations. Let's have them recorded and put out to the public in boxing. I think that would help boxing a lot. Is if we heard and saw what was going on in these negotiations. So it's tough to go off he said, she said, but we can use our intuition and we can make assumptions based on what we're given. You had Usyk's side saying, we agreed 70-30. We agreed did they both drop the rematch clause, right?
I believe so. I believe the report I heard was that because of the 70-30 purse bid, that Oleksandr Usyk was pushing a rematch clause as insurance. I'm guessing that's just what I heard. But like you said, we don't know.
Yeah. So I want to say if Fury got 70-30, it's sort of like, well, why did this fight collapse then if you're getting a lot more large sum of the payday? However, if what I'm hearing from Fury's side is accurate, Usyk saying, oh, we need 6 months to prepare for a title fight. It's sort of like, well, why do you need that long? I understand that there's things going on in life and everything, and everyone has their own lives. But Fury was ready to go a little earlier, I believe. I believe Fury was ready to go in like the winter, right? It was like the early winter. He was ready to go. And Usyk was like, no, we need more time. I want to go in the spring. So that kind of pushed things back a little bit. However, I don't see a valid reason as to why this fight fell through. I'm not really sure who's most to blame. I feel like both sides have their own quarrels. I just think that boxing fans and former boxers and the media and networks and both guys are definitely going to miss out on this one because for legacy, for a payday, for a great night of entertainment in the UK and across the globe, this is a big loss for everyone who follows and cares about the sport of boxing. And I think that this collapse of the unification fight for a heavyweight championship is a huge blow, and it does not help boxing's cause when being compared to the UFC or MMA because they get those fights done. We got Jones Sirlegan, we had Covington Masvidal, we had trilogy fights in the UFC for the heavyweight belt. We've had McGregor Khabib. We've had all these crazy fights in the UFC. And in boxing, it just feels like we get them sporadically. It's like finally we're getting Tank Ryan. We're getting Haney Loma. And we thought that's what we texted about this. And that's why I say I ain't going to believe it till they step in the ring because it's just so crazy how we're just not getting the fights that we really want to see for the consumer. If the consumer gets a fight that we really want to see, more people are going to buy it and more people are going to go to the event and it's going to create more revenue. So we got to get the fights that we want to see. And now, look, we may never get Spence Crawford. And now, when is the next time we're even going to come close to being able to talk about a heavyweight unification fight? When's the next time we're even going to be able to talk about that? All I know is that I'm not really sure who's to blame because it's he said, she said. But start recording negotiations. And this is a massive blow to the boxing community that this fight is not happening.
Yeah, Dean.O, I mean, good takes. I do agree that some part of negotiations should be released to the public so we can have clarity. This way, we don't have our hopes up. We think we're going to get a mega fight, and we hear it collapse. And it's like, wait, what happened? Like, I don't know. Like, why is the fight not happening? And then we just lost to deal with it and suck it in and move on. Like, nah, I want to know so I can see who potentially is ducking who. I would love to have that clarity because now I can look at that fighter differently with all due respect. And somebody else is getting style points for trying to make the fight happen. You know, somebody got to be a hero. It's somebody got to be a villain. But I'm gonna hit you with this take, Dean.O. I got a hot take, but I don't really think it's a hot take. I really think it's a factual take, but it's a hot take because I don't have conclusive evidence to back up the take that I'm about to release. I think Tyson Fury is doing a disservice by not telling people he's really retired. And I'm going to dive into that. I know it's a lot for you to take in. I know the attendance is going up right now. I'm going to explain everything right now. After that Wilder fight, or Wilder fights, where he was 2-0-1, he won 2 out of the 3. 1 was a draw. As I stated before, he took a lot of punishment, even though he won those fights.
Mm-hmm.
He took a lot of punishment. Even he came out and said after the 3rd fight that he had head swelling and he thought he had brain damage. And that's why he retired before he came out of the retirement to fight Dillian White. He said that, listen, if the paycheck was good, it was going to take a large amount of money for me to come out of retirement. Why is this important? When you talk about 70-30 split, that seems like a whole lot of money to me. So he said that before he fought Dillian White, it was a lot of money. I think it was his first fight at Wimbledon in like years or something like that. And the massive appeal, everything, returning home, He came back for that fight. Then he fought beat up Derek Chisora. I remember saying to myself, what the hell does he get out of a trilogy with this washed up cat? You know what I'm saying? No shots at Chisora, but my man's. Come on, bro. You lost to everybody in the division, bro, respectfully, and got knocked out in most of those fights. Why is he fighting that fight? So everything, I'm a guy, Dean.O, I'm a detective. I look at actions. You know, I look at things from a magnifying glass. I listen to words, and I piece things together. I got a whole sheet like I'm an FBI agent with words and quotes, and I put everything together, and this is what I'm coming to. He really wants to retire, and he is not trying to make no big fights anymore. That's why when he tried to fight AJ or AJ tried to fight him, 2 weeks. We're going to make this fight happen in 2 weeks, or I'm off that. Realistically, what we know about boxing, it's more than 2 weeks to make a fight like that. How could we ever thought that fight was going to get done in 2 weeks? With all the politics and the A sides and the B sides and the Eddie Hearns and the Frank Warrens, like, come on. That's why when the Usyk fight was going down, he asked for 70-30. Because I'm hurt. I need to retire. I got a lot of injuries that I sustained in that Wilder fight. Wilder is a heavy hitter. And if Wilder had a couple more skills, then maybe he wins those fights. And he took a lot of punishment. And that's why he did not want to make the Usyk fight. All that was optics. How do I know that for sure? I don't know him personally. However, I found this interesting, Dean.O. Sugar Hill Stewart said that they was not even in training camp. The reported dates that they was going to fight was in March. If you was talking in March, I'm looking at the calendar right now, March 28th. Excuse me, you be going to fight in May. I think it was May or something like that. May or April, they was going to make a fight happen. I'm looking at the date. It's March 28th. You're not in training camp? That means you didn't want to fight. You was never going to fight him. Usyk left training camp when everything came out about the fight collapse. Usyk was in camp. And he left camp. Tyson Fury, according to his trainer, Sugar Hill, he was up the hill. He was not in camp. So when I look at the actions and I look at the words, Tyson Fury said, I had brain damage. I'm headed in retirement. I'm out of retirement now. He really is retired. And the next time we see Fury is always going to be against guys that he know he can beat because he's really retired. And he needs to be honest about that. It's okay. If you're hurt, it's a dangerous sport. It's a very dangerous sport, boxing. Y'all put your bodies on the line for a paycheck to entertain people. But if you're hurt, give the fans transparency. Because right now, I don't even think Usyk, even if I tried to shoot down my theory, I don't think Usyk is cut from that cloth where he's ducking. With all due respect, based on actions, if this cat could go overseas and fight in a war and he's not ducking the war, he ain't ducking Tyson Fury respectfully. If he ain't ducking the war against Russia and he fighting for his country, the UK, because most people would duck that. Most people like, nah, I'm good. I'm out. Nah, I'm not joining it. No, respectfully. Okay. Imagine that happened in America. How many American superstars and athletes is going to fight for their country? Yeah, we too spoiled over here. So if he ain't ducking war, he ain't ducking Tyson Fury respectfully. And I'm going to leave it at that.
That was very interesting. A very interesting take. Make some valid points there. However, I just don't know where Tyson Fury's head's at with the whole retirement thing. The reason why I say that is because he retired was twice before, or he retired. He wanted to retire after the Wilder 3
One.
fight, and then he retired after the Dillian White fight. But then he came back to fight Chisora. So I just don't know where his head's at. I know that in the past he's dealt with his own mental health battles, so I understand that there might be maybe there's something involved there. But I just feel like I don't know if he really is like retired and still fighting. The reason why I say that is because he wouldn't want to step in the ring again if he truly was retired, because boxing is a sport where you have to be all in or all out. You can't be like, yeah, like I'll play this season, like Udonis Haslam, where he's like, oh yeah, I'll go through a season, he's not playing. So it's like he can go do that, but in boxing you can't, because either way, no matter what, you're gonna get hit and you're gonna take damage in fights. So I'm not too sure about the whole retirement thing, but maybe if he's truly leaning towards it, maybe he should just step away and retire. But because I mean, it'll only do him more damage in the long run if he has that mentality of wanting to get out, but he doesn't get out and he stays in longer. It's like, look at Muhammad Ali, his last few fights. Those are very sad to watch, you know? And, we don't want to see something like that happen to Tyson Fury. However, now let me throw you this. Yes, this fight collapsed, and who knows if we're going to get it. Probably not. So let's think about this now. Fury goes and fights AJ, and Usyk goes and fights Wilder for the belt. Now, how about that? So now think about this. You have AJ and Fury. All these years we wanted to see it, and now we might finally get it, because AJ's like, hey, I need a big fight here. If it's not now, and then it's never, because he's talking about retiring. He said people asking him to step away, he might retire. So if AJ takes the Fury fight, he's got nothing to lose. He's got to go out and go try to get a win, because he just lost 2 in a row to Usyk. So you got that. And then you have Wilder coming off of his knockout win against Robert Helenius. And you got Usyk with the belt. It's like, well, I just beat Joshua twice. So now Wilder wants to fight. He just got to win. He's back in the mix. Why not? Why can't we make these fights happen? Why can't we make this happen? Because think about this. Yes, this is a monumental collapse, and we want to see the unification fight so bad. But these two alternatives might not be such a bad idea after all, because those are two matchups that I think everyone would really enjoy watching if the time comes along.
I mean, look, I agree with that. But before I even answer that real quickly here, I do want to respond to Pitbull Boxing. Lost some respect for Fury after that. But after all, it's the business of boxing. It all reminds me of Bud versus Spence, where Team Spence didn't want to fight. Boxing is suffering under this. To respond to that, I'm not even sure if it's the usual politics of boxing with the promoters. It may be. It just may be. But I think Tyson Fury, when you reflect back to the second fight with Deontay Wilder, remember, Tyson Fury, something has shifted. Like I said, like he's acting different. Like even after the second fight with Wilder, remember, he did not want to fight the third fight. The fight had to go, the negotiations had to go to arbitration. Mm-hmm. He did not want to fight the third fight. It was a rematch clause. He didn't want to take it. So Fury has been pushing out these demands, and it could be just an ego thing. Like, I'm at the top of the food chain, bow down to me. Right? You saw him when he entered the ring against Dillian White. I'm going to sit on my throne. Maybe that's going to his head. Or maybe it's the theory that I pointed out. He is retired. Like, the only fights he's going to fight is, like my guy Pitbull Boxing said, it's 2 to 3 easy fights that he knows he can win and get a payday. And if you look at my theory and you look at his 2 fights, it aligns with my theory. Dillian White, come on. He wasn't going to win that fight. I understand he's a body snatcher and this and that. Come on. He didn't have the physical attributes to even catch Fury. He couldn't even get to Fury. He can't even land nothing on Fury. Right? And then Derek Chisora, come on, man. Guy got knocked out by everybody like 45 years old. So I really think that he's really halfway into retirement. And if he's going to fight a big fight, with all the injuries he sustained over his boxing career, the paycheck got to be 70-30, like how he offered Usyk and how they offered Usyk. 70-30. Think about that. Usyk got 3 of the belts. 70-30? And that was agreed to? So clearly, Oleksandr Usyk team wants that fight. If they agreed to that, if that wasn't the reason why that fight fell through, it's not Oleksandr Usyk team that is to blame here. I can understand that was the reason why the fight fell through. That's one thing. But if 70-30 in favor of Tyson Fury wasn't enough to destroy the fight then Usyk team is exempted from blame here. I got to look at Tyson Fury or his team. But to answer your question real quickly, Dino, before I pass the mic back to you, I do think Deontay Wilder should get up on this. Obviously, I think they're going to have to do some maneuvering with the sanctioning bodies and all that to make this happen because of a mandatory. But if you're Wilder, this may be your card. This might be the ace card to get back at the top of the division. You beat Oleksandr Usyk, you get the belts. Then we're going to know a lot about my theory on Tyson Fury, because there's no way I see a fourth fight with Tyson Fury happening if my theory is right. Fury and Usyk won't fight. Joyce, that one thing I do know, they will age him out. I agree too. Joyce is he's another bad cat, man. Joyce is he's a cat. He's a cat. I gotta put respect on his name. But Dino, any final thoughts? What you think about everything that I'm saying right now?
You
It
know,
seems like
you
you're
do
trying
got
to
a point.
process everything.
You do got a point because actions do speak louder than words. And when you see like what Sugar Hill Stewart said, and based off of an action, it's like, well, maybe Fury didn't really want this fight right now. Maybe he did. Maybe he does want 2 to 3 easier fights. Maybe he doesn't even go and fight AJ next. Maybe he just does. He goes and fights 2 to 3 more easier fights where it's like, all right, like you get the theatrics and everything, and he probably sells out Wembley or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium again, and they get those big fights in the UK. But maybe he doesn't go out and fight any big fights at all. Maybe he just does take 2 or 3 easier fights. That could very much happen. And I could see Usyk going and fighting Wilder sometime this year, like in the fall or something, or even like the summer. I could see them doing that fight. And I think that would be a very big fight because I think Wilder wins it. I think he knocks out Usyk. I think he survives Usyk's his boxing and his game plan. And I think he knocks him out later in the fight. But it'd be a fight that I feel like a lot of people would enjoy to see. However, we really wanted to see Usyk and Fury. And after all the talk that was going on for the last, 6 months about this fight, it's kind of tough to see this whole thing go down. And I mean, let's go for letting out to the public some of these parts of the negotiations. Granted, you could spin it and be like, oh, like this is what they said, but it's also like, okay, we hear what let's, for example, we heard what Team Tank said, and we also heard what Team Ryan said. So like we could put together things a lot more easier and have more clarity. So, boxing, we've been calling for these changes, especially with having like 4 belts in the division. We called for that to get out years ago. Floyd's even called for it. He said that's the biggest problem is that everyone has a belt. And it's like, we don't want to see that much anymore. And we also want these negotiations. We want more clarity with it. And, tip my hat, man, to Tank and Ryan for getting this done. Knock on wood, not trying to jinx, because until I see it a month from now,
Until they
I
do
don't
their
want to
ring
believe it.
walks.
But for now, hats off to them because it's nice to see that happen. And Haney Loma, I think that's going to be a great fight. It just got confirmed today. I don't know if you saw the news.
Yep.
So yeah, we got a few good fights coming up. It's unfortunate to see this fight collapse as it was a lot. Me and you, we were looking forward to it a lot, and I'm sure a lot of boxing fans are looking forward to it as well.
And to close out, speaking of fights, this may not be a big fight. It's not. But Anthony Joshua and Jermaine Franklin is going down on Saturday. And, Anthony Joshua said, in quotes, right? Because you know how people take quotes and they mix and mesh. And some people say that's not what he said. Based on what I saw, in quote, I'm going to retire if I lose this fight. Dino, real quickly, when you hear those words from Anthony Joshua's mouth, what do you think? What comes to mind?
I don't think he's lying. If he loses to Franklin this week, that pretty much takes him out of the heavyweight title picture completely for years. So I feel, if I'm AJ, he probably got some substance to it. He knows his body better than we do. And if he's saying that, then you know what? Good. Put pressure on yourself to go out there and perform. We want to see it. We want to see what you look like. We want to see how you do. So, good. Put that pressure on yourself. Go out there and deliver a good performance, and get back in the picture so we could see you fight Fury. We could see you fight Wilder, hopefully, because I really for years have wanted to see Wilder AJ. We unfortunately haven't got to see it. So go get this win, look good, and put yourself back in the picture. I think that would be the best thing for him. But you know what? If he's talking about retiring, if he loses, then maybe he should.
I mean, look, man. Yeah, I agree. Franklin, he's a little tricky. Remember, Ruiz was tricky. And if I had to draw a comparison, I know I may get flagged for this, but that would kind of be the comparison where it's a guy that everybody will overlook and could be tricky. Remember, Usyk, he's not known for power. But I believe in the first fight, he hurt Anthony Joshua. I remember, I saw it. So you just never know. Sometimes it's the combination. It gets to you. You don't see it. You get hurt. You get tagged. You get buzzed. I don't like Anthony Joshua saying that I'm going to retire if I lose because it's more added pressure. Anthony Joshua is a guy based on what I saw. He doesn't handle pressure well. He doesn't. It got to him. There's a lot of pressure being thrown around on Anthony Joshua because he's this big global star who sells out Wembley Stadium, packing 70,000 in seats. There was a lot of pressure. He's like almost like an actor, kind of like a superstar, something straight out of WWE. It's pressure. And Eddie Hearn saying the same thing. He's done if he loses again. There's a lot of pressure on Anthony Joshua. And the last thing I want to see is A, Joshua giving Joshua more pressure, and B, you giving Franklin a mental advantage by you saying that, because that's disrespectful. If I'm Franklin, I'm trying to knock this kid out. So
I agree.
AJ may be boxing himself in the corner, and then if he loses, is he going to adhere to his word?
That's the most interesting thing to see. Is he going to adhere? I mean, I think he will, because at that point, if I'm AJ, it's like, well, where do I go from here? And in a way, he is kind of disrespecting Frank, because it's like, man, if I lose to you, yeah, I'm out of here. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, like that's the ultimate side of disrespect.
It's like, whoa. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with it, but I definitely think it's good to see AJ under pressure, because like in the first Ruiz fight, he was under pressure, but then the second Ruiz fight, he was under even more pressure, because it's like, all right, are you really going to lose again? And he, granted, he was just sticking and moving the whole time, and Ruiz couldn't catch up because he was so much heavier than when in the first fight. But so he handled the pressure there, but he lost to Usyk, I thought. But however, I didn't think he was the favorite to beat Usyk. I mean, the bookies might have had it that way, but I was like, nah, Usyk stylistically, he'll give him a tough fight. I thought Usyk was going to win both those fights. So I can't say oh, this is such a horrible loss for him to lose to Usyk, because it's not. But to lose 3 in a row, you're essentially going to be out of the picture for the title for a long time. So it's not going to do him any goods if he loses this fight. Or honestly, even if he wins and it's like a nail biter, I don't know if that does him much good either, because it's like, man, like this dude, like what's going on with AJ?
Nah, that's a fact, and it's part of Eddie Hearn's, I believe, 3-fight plan to like build AJ back up from the ground up, to like tear him down and bring him back up so he can fight a potential Wilder and Fury fight. We have to see if that works out. Me, I'm of the mindset of, if you didn't want to fight Wilder today, you don't want to fight him tomorrow. Because your confidence, I don't think you can build back up confidence. Confidence is something you have or you don't.
I agree.
Like,
yeah, it's all from within. It's not from the outside.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dean.O, this just another WWE. If you lose this fight, your career is over. Those fights that they used to have, like Shawn Michaels, you lose, your career is over. It's one of those fights for Anthony Joshua. And if he loses, he's going to hear these words from Eddie Hearn.
You're fired!
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content.
You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.